Hello everyone, this is Redragon recording from the DC Universe Online test server with continued coverage of episode 45, Shock to the System. In this video I will be going over the highlights of the complete alert. Previously I did only the elevator part, which is probably the most important mechanics wise. So if you want to get some detailed information on that portion of the alert, you can click on the information icon to the upper right. But here I'm just going to be going over the highlights, and I will probably cut out all the hallway hack and slash because kind of like God's Eye Pyramid, that's probably a little bit overdone in this. There's just going to be a lot of ads and stuff, but nothing significant other than there are like counterfeits and stuff associated with this. Over here we're just arriving at the elevator. I cut out a bunch of ad battles, and the ads are skippable here. Like, you don't actually have to defeat them to unlock like this portion of the alert, but there are like counters for feats, so in the beginning you will want to do them. And here we are looking at the elevator. Previously I reported that it was probably not randomized, but it is, because the first couple of times I ran this, I got the same order, but here we got the blue first instead of the green. So if you look closely, these wires do have colors, but you do have to get in close. So just to go over this quickly, you're going to hit the color first, and then you have to run into the room with the symbol, the matching symbol, which is of course the same color. So it could start with green, blue, or red. And surprisingly, Elite is not different. The only thing is that the timers are just shorter, but you know, there's no like additional symbols, additional colors, or any kind of damage mechanics. It is pretty much the same. So if you know where they are and you have someone ready in the room, Elite and regular are pretty much the same, even up to this point. Okay, so we're down a level, and there's probably a feat for grabbing those cogs you see there. One of the things that would be less confusing is if we didn't see them through the walls, because sometimes it's hard to tell where they are, and it's also not consistent with how they have cogs show up sometimes. Like, sometimes there's like a hard object and you can't see stuff through it, and other times they kind of bleed through. Okay, so I will cut this one off here. Okay, at this point we're approaching the first boss, Parasite. And since these are hallways, you do have to fight most of the ads, but if they're in a portion of the room, like in a corner, where they won't draw aggro, you could actually skip them, from what I noticed. So you will want to do that again towards the end when your counters are done. And you want a faster alert. So with Parasite, you will want to tank in the middle, because there's a bunch of attacks you'll want to see from all directions. And there will be parts of this where the tank will want to go behind him, because when he fires the conal, you can get behind him and go on the attack. And there's also part of this where he attacks static, and then you need to grab the battery and power up static. And in playing normal and elite, Much like the rest of the alert, there is not much of a difference. It's just that the mechanics are more enforced in Elite in that they do more damage. As a rule of thumb, what I usually tell people is that if you're playing regular and you take something like a 33% hit to your health, that would likely be a knockout in Elite. But in this case, like if you're used to the mechanics and you're able to dodge the attacks, Elite and regular feel very, very similar. There were some episodes where Elite had like jacked up health. That does not seem to be the case here. They don't feel that different. At least that's the way it is on test as of now. And the date is Sunday, April 16th, and we are getting close to launch, so this is likely what it's going to be like. So Parasite is pretty much a tank and spank. He is vulnerable to the weapon counter mechanics. There he's doing his conal attack, and that's when I slip behind him and go on the attack myself. There's also a part of this where he says where Parasite is draining your power, but I didn't do anything other than block there. So yeah, nothing too special about this fight. And we're off to the hallways for some more hack and slash. Between the two boss fights, much like the regular alert, just a ton of ads. And again, if you're in a large area where a mob of them are in the corner or something, they are skippable if you don't draw aggro. And there's a portion where you can drop down like a flight of stairs and skip a bunch of other ads. So yeah, once again, clear them if you need the counter, skip them if you want to get this done quickly. So final boss, there are only two bosses, Major Force. And again, like Parasite, there's no difference between regular and Elite at this moment in time. He does have a spin attack, so again, tank him in the middle so that you have the ability to dodge it, because if you tank him at a wall, then obviously the spin is going to hit 100%. But in the middle, you can spin with him. So ideally, the tank should be in front, and everyone else should be facing his back, and you should be okay dodging it. But much like the recent trend in bosses that have spin attacks, he's going to spin in one direction and then the other. So here he goes. He goes clockwise first and then counterclockwise. I believe it's always in that order. So now he's going the other way. But between his big attacks, it's just tank and spank. As you can see, he's got the lunge mechanic, which is pretty much in most of the recent DLCs. So we should be already used to that. And once you successfully lunge, there is a console you will have to hit that kind of entraps him for a few seconds. Those are the only two major mechanics. Surprisingly, in Elite, for these two bosses, they didn't add anything. It's just the same things but they just do more damage. So, in a way, I kind of agree with that, because it kind of cuts down on like the cheesy wipes. I mean, some portion of this game should have like two of the same fights where one is enforced and one isn't. So the Elite version, it's enforced in that if you get hit by a big attack, you'll either get KO'd or take a lot of damage. But there's no like ridiculous KOs like in some of the older DLCs where elite bosses got like way more different attacks than their regular version. So here's the lunge mechanic again. And there he gets entrapped in that cylinder. There are also ads in this fight, I think in the previous fight as well, and I think those are also part of some kind of counter feat. I didn't really read through the feats that carefully because they were just added, but it's possible that some of the feat runs would add difficulty to the alert. Because I mean, if you look at a lot of the recent episodes, the elite difficulty kind of stepped down a little bit, but when you factor in some of the feat runs, then it becomes difficult. So that could be the case here, because maybe there's one where you have to farm like a ton of the ads, and then it becomes like an endurance challenge. Or I bet there's one where you ignore the console. Because pretty much by now we know how they make us do the feats. Either do the mechanic, don't do the mechanic, or there might be a checklist of both doing it and ignoring it. Or sometimes they're separate feats by themselves.
Is paying off after all.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. There's nothing too flashy about this alert. It's just daily formality, I guess. But with the elite difficulty being a little bit lower, I would go ahead and farm this every day, get the elite suit, then get the discount and get the regular armor set. On an unrelated note, I believe this episode should cross over with the next Save the Universe event. So keep in mind when you're farming Elite, you only need to buy one set of that for one roll. Because you will have the equivalent gear in Save the Universe, which is a lot easier to farm. So you will want to wait for that and get the suit full set of Elite for your other role, so that way you're not blowing the hard-earned episode currency. Okay, that is it from here, and we'll see you on the live server for Shock to the System soon.